Good morning, everyone. I wanted to say welcome on this sunny South African morning, but the weather seems to have caught up with us. It's quite cold, so you can see I'm quite warmly dressed. It's been raining for a couple of days, which is always a heaven sent. I would like to welcome everyone to the session, The New Entrepreneur for the New World. In this masterclass or webinar session, I'm going to discuss with you guys a little bit of the thinking behind where we are as business people and as entrepreneurs. I think most of the people that bought the tickets and that's joining our free session are obviously business people coming from entrepreneurial background. And how to survive and struggle. I'll give you some background on what I've been through myself as well, but it's a really powerful story and message, and this forms part of our current online conference. So welcome to our first session. I'm really excited to be here with you guys. And to start off, my name is Eugene. I'm a technology entrepreneur. I'm probably what you'll call a career entrepreneur. I've been working for myself since, well, for almost nearly 3 decades, 30 years. Very much been around the block, and it depends if my camera definition is high enough. You'll see the grade. It's all entrepreneurial grade. And also during this conference, just so that you know, I'll be the MC. I'll be the host for the other speakers. I'll be sitting in the background monitoring them. But also I'm really fascinated with the stories they've got to tell. I've gone through when we set up the schedule and I spoke to the different speakers. I was really fascinated with their topics and how people think differently. So I hope you guys enjoy this series. I hope you enjoy this webinar this morning. And before we start, I'm quickly gonna let me start this off. Okay, so I'm gonna have to unfortunately bend down a bit to do my own slides. I prefer to do my own slides to just sort of see where I stand. And let me just close this quickly. There we go. And then just on the system, you guys are currently, we're a proud partner with Demio webinar platforms. So this is a Demio webinar system. I hope you guys love it. We absolutely love the simplicity. On the right, if you're on a PC, if you're joining on a PC, let me just get it right, on my right-hand side, you can do chats. So I want to ask you guys, give me a thumbs up. Wow, we've got a lot of people here. Alta, Dario, Peter, Donnie, Willem. Welcome, Willem. Really love to get your feedback after this. Really appreciate you guys doing. Yeah, so that you can see on the right-hand side, we've got polls. We've got the chat. And then I love to have my webinars really interactive. So I've got polls. We've got a couple of polls. And the polls are really great because I can ask you guys a question and you can just quickly click and give me some feedback on it. And then just on the chat, sometimes I've got my chats private or public. I've got them as private so that you guys can obviously talk to me. And it's only myself and Annalise, my moderator, that's sitting behind the scenes that can see the chat. So you guys are welcome to ask any questions while we're busy. Hi, Carl. Welcome. Okay, so let's get off to where's my mouse here? I've got multiple screens, so my mouse always gets away from me. So I'm going to start off with, we all had great plans for 2020. I know I definitely had. I just came out of a back operation. January, I thought I worked out the plan for my businesses. We've got 4 businesses. I love doing business. My plan was to do 6 webinars and then go to Australia and do some business there. And man, everything was like they say. I mean, I thought 2020 was going to be chocolate chip cookies, and then bam, we get raisin oatmeal, which is obviously very distracting. And the speed at which these changes have come in February was absolutely amazing and astronomical. So I read last week that within a month, I think it was March, half the world's population, 4.5 billion people, are under self-imposed lockdown, which is absolutely phenomenal. Nowhere in recorded history has it happened before. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people also say that as a species, as humans, we're coming together and we're fighting the virus, which is true to some extent in our different different levels. But the problem is not all the actions we do and that the countries have taken on necessarily to help one another. I think there's a big portion of selfishness behind it as well. It gets the same job done. But personally, I think that obviously a lot of countries and lockdowns are not just aimed for not distributing the virus, but more that we don't get it. But it doesn't matter. The fact is that half the world is in lockdown, and it's quite unprecedented. The problem is that none of us really know what the impact is. Now, I'm an entrepreneur, as I've said, and I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, and I'm struggling with all the tools in my toolbox. I'm a software developer. I develop my own systems and everything. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, and the implications are severe. So firstly, I always classify the implications business-wise. What's going to happen with the business? So obviously, we all know supply chains. I'm not going to explain to you guys the whole supply chain. As entrepreneurs, we all form some kind of role in a supply chain. Well, you are the consumer in any case, but you form a role in the supply chain. And the problem is that the supply chains are slowing down and coming to an end. And your role in that supply chain is under serious threat. Now, I used to, up until, well, this lockdown, I used to train people about the term called disintermediation. If you guys can, I don't know if any of you guys know what disintermediation is. If you can, mention quickly with in the chats. Have any of you guys heard of disintermediation? It's a really interesting word, but it's basically the breaking down of and taking away of the intermediary. Now, I'm not gonna go down that line because I'm quite easily distracted. And those of you guys that know me know I can go off a tangent quite quickly. But ultimately, the impact of this is, for one, the supply chains are going down, and that means that the cash flow is drying up. So the natural effect is that businesses that are generally don't have a lot of survival literally stop paying bills, stop paying staff. I mean, we already, I think half the customers I'm talking to are looking at 50% retrenchments. So it happens at such a quick pace that the consumer now locks down. I mean, we haven't had the sales for this event we needed. I haven't had the sales myself in the last month on the subscribers that we had. And I'm talking small percentages, 20%, 30% of what it used to be. I don't know what you guys have. Gavin, I'll quickly, thanks for the question. I'll quickly say it again. It's called disintermediation. Intermediary is the middleman. Disintermediation is taking away the middleman. Okay, just to get back to it. So the supply chain is locking down. The cash flow is drying up. If the cash flow on the businesses dry up, it obviously filters back to the consumer. The consumers have now stopped spending, either because of fear or they don't have cash. I'm still figuring out where I'm in that equation. But the problem is, if people stop buying, then the businesses do close down. So I think the scary portion is we might be at a point where it's going to take years to recover these supply chains, because it's a balance where the businesses start doing, consumers start, businesses start. And the problem is the carpet have been, I mean, my raisin bran thing, I mean, raisin oatmeal cookies is what we've got served. And then the next aspect that's quite important for me as an entrepreneur is the impact on panic, fear, anxiety, and depression. So those four is actually quite important for me. Now, a little bit of a personal revelation is I struggle from panic attacks. It's a thing that I got from my parents. I always ask myself, what am I doing as an entrepreneur, considering my tendency towards panic attacks? But it plays an extremely big role in the fact that I've been an entrepreneur and survived for 30 years. And I almost want to say it's become a bit of a superpower for me, is the fact that I have control over my panic attacks. But now we're sitting in a world where everyone is panicking. Panicking leads to fear. The fear is now in anxiety, and then depression. Now, this is apart from where you were in life. I mean, if you went into this whole world chaos already, let's say in a divorce or bankruptcy or business rescue or something, I mean, this just aggravates it. So I've got a lot of respect for you guys that's gone through it, and definitely as they say, the pain is real. The minor benefit that I see from everything that's happened is that I think the world can breathe. I saw a very, very nice meme recently that said, the world said we need to slow down, and humanity said, no, we are on a momentum. And then the world said, poof, there's a virus, let's see how you cope with that. which is obviously a minor benefit. And I'm a very big earth person, but it doesn't distract from where we are. So I want to ask you guys my first. I'm going to take you through the first question I've got, because I'm really keen to see where you guys are. And the poll responses are private, so don't worry, you guys can poll. We'll get the poll coming up now. Are you currently thriving or surviving? Let's see. Okay, there we've got it as a poll. You guys, I see some of you guys jumped in and did it as a chat, but just do on the poll. I'm not the only one in this situation. We've got one guy thriving, which is awesome. I don't know where it is. It's because I only see the results. But I think the general consensus, if I just look at majority, is that we're sitting on 88% of all you guys are voting that you're surviving. And I'm not going to lie, we're in the same boat. I'm in IT. Our whole systems, our staff, everything is remote, online, and you would think that, ooh, it's going great. There are portions of it that's working, so it's not all, dismal and ashes and stuff. But the problem is I serve as customers, and I serve as customers that do real world products, and they are closing down. So it's a bit rough. Then, seeing as I'm so keen to ask you guys questions, Annalise, if you can run the next poll for us, I want to know what your opinion is of the current situation we're in. There's various opinions. Do you think things will turn back to pre-normal COVID? Well, it also asked the question, was it normal before? But I think what we deemed as normal, the way that we operated, the way that we see the world. Wow, I didn't even have to, you guys are quite quick on that one. Yeah, we've got 90%. It's interesting because there's a couple of guys that said they think it will. I'd really like to because I love psychology and I love anthropology. I'd really like you guys after this to get in touch with me. I'd like to sort of pick your brains on it. But I think that it's clear to say that the majority of people realize that it's not going to be the same. And that's also ultimately why you guys are joining this webinar. So let me get a little bit into why I talk about what I talk, why I talk to entrepreneurs and about the new normal. So the term that's obviously been floating around is the new normal, because once we get back to it, we had what we thought was normal. And then let's say on a curve, it sort of, wow, poof, drop, the raisin oatmeal drop. Oh, that's a very good term. I might coin it. Okay, so we had the raisin oatmeal drop. And yes, it might turn back, but I doubt if it will turn back, because, I mean, if I just take how people are now using Zoom, for those guys that aren't techies, prior to the lockdown, if I set up a Zoom meeting with people, I mean, people didn't know how to use it. Now I've got 7 Zoom meetings a day. So the adoption of technology, the thinking, that's there. The problem is, as entrepreneurs and business people, how do we monetize it? How do we adapt to the new normal? So I've been a career entrepreneur. I've been in my own business for 30 years. In the 30 years, I had to recreate myself, and I mean proper recreate. I'm not talking about ventures that didn't fail or investments I did that didn't pay out. I'm talking about proper rock bottom 3 times in my life. The first one, after my engineering studies, 4 years of studies, I realized I don't want to be an engineer. I was still young and stupid, but I don't want to be an engineer. I started my first business and it was devastating, panic attacks. And I was trained for 4 years how to be an engineer. Let me just go over to the chats there. I was trained for 4 years on how to be an engineer, and I've got no other skills. And all of a sudden I decided volunteer. The next one was during the .com crash. So prior to .com crash, we were flying high. I had a company that I listed in the UK Stock Exchange. We had 14 businesses and offices worldwide. I was living in London, constantly working 20 hours a day. And then 911, someone flies a plane into a skyscraper. Not necessarily the trigger, but directly after that, the .com crash, and we lost everything. Wealth gone, assets gone, family still fine. And then my last big one, which a lot of people know me for, is in South Africa. I started a business after the .com thing called Goga Connect. Very successful business, loved it. We partnered with currently the largest cell phone operator in the country. I won't say their name, because I might get sued again. But it ended up in the partnership went sour, ended up in a 2-year high court case, and we literally in 2011 lost everything. I had to liquidate all the businesses. I had to sequestrate myself. I've been through it. I actually became quite sharp on the legal aspects of it, and I currently consult people on it. So definitely an open invite. There's a couple of people online that might go through it. I mean, I'm happy. I always say that I'll happily consult fellow entrepreneurs on handling this completely free. I mean, so you guys are really welcome to get in touch with me. But again, I'm diluting. I've survived the failures, and I almost want to say on the same level, I've also survived my successes. In the 3 main cycles I had in my life, every time I'm at the top, I know, you never know when it's the top, but you definitely know it was the top when you hit the bottom on the other side. And it's as important for me to survive the failures and the successes. But I get asked a lot, how did you survive it? I mean, if there's a new normal, because remember, there's a new normal for me after survival exercise, there's a new normal for the world now. And how do you start from scratch? How do you get into the mindset of thinking, how am I going to survive this? Well, there's a basic principle that I've got, and that is that I fly high. You generally have your oatmeal raisin drop. Yes, I'm really getting to like that term. You crash, it feels like you're dying, panic, anxiety, maybe depression sets in, but then something interesting happens, and that is you go back to basics. It's a very obviously used term, what is basics, but what I found as a survivor of being a career entrepreneur is that basics for me is what would people pay me to do? I'm talking commercially now, I'm talking financially, not emotionally. I'm emotionally see people take pills, do what you need to do. But from a business side, I always go back to basics and saying, well, what can I do? And what are my skills? And the problem is that in a previous, before the oatmeal crash, you have skills and you're confident in your skills, and then boom, all of a sudden you have to say, well, those skills aren't valuable anymore. Maybe no one wants those skills. So it's a very personal thing to be able to survive a recreation of yourself. So I've mentored, I'm quickly going to go through here, I've mentored quite a lot of people through the last 10 years on business survival. We actually, Donnie, one of our speakers tomorrow, Donnie Jacobs from Young Entrepreneurs, who is a speaker, I think tomorrow, 10 o'clock, you guys must definitely be online. Every day we'll have a couple of freebies just to get people going on the webinars. But Donnie and myself have developed a program called When the Shit Hits the Fan, and that's so appropriate for businesses. We actually developed that last October before it literally hit the fan. But I think also part of it is that people don't realize, so once we go into this redevelopment, is that people don't realize the excessive stress on entrepreneurs and business owners. If you guys are business owners, I mean, tell me in the chats quickly. Thank you, Alta, Simonier. But as a business owner, I don't know if you guys know the saying that being an entrepreneur is like building a plane while you're falling off a cliff. But I think it actually, I love that analogy, but I think it goes further. It's not just building the plane. It's while you're falling, you're designing the plane. You then source the raw products. You don't know how, but you're falling. While you're falling, you then go ahead and assemble the plane. Guess what? When you don't have plans because you don't know if you're actually building a plane or a bomb. And then if you get it right, you get the wings, the tail, the everything, the rudders and everything right, then you fly. The problem is, as entrepreneurs, we're actually tailing everyone and everyone's following us, and it puts that excessive stress on us as business owners. But for me, having survived this a couple of times, I want to tell you guys that you'll see I'm still smiling. And it's not because I'm an endless optimist, it's because every crash has literally been an opportunity. It's actually fantastic how it worked out. So I'm quickly going to, guess what? We've got our next polls. That is, I'm really keen to, Yes, Willem, I agree with it. My favorite way of starting a business, I wish it wasn't. Yeah, no, we can tell stories about it. One of our listeners, Willem Gous, is a very well-known speaker about it. So my question quickly, sorry to get back to the poll, have you survived complete career and personal crash? And again, it's private, but I'd really like to understand you guys. We've got a couple of lucky, not yet, yes, better for it. Oh, wow, that's actually very interesting. I love the fact, I'm sorry to say that most of you guys have gone through it and you've survived it, which is fantastic. Now, I'm not saying this is not inclining towards that this means it's a do or die situation. But I think for me as an entrepreneur, the new normal means a redevelopment of my thinking and definitely a rethinking of what I do as a business. So that now brings me to where are we? I mean, we're two months down the line we're 2 months down the line, and I think it's fair to say we're all a little bit stressed. Maybe you guys are a little bit stressed even listening to me. But I absolutely love Maslow. Most of you guys know Maslow's hierarchy. I'll quickly take you through it. If you don't know it, I think it's quite relevant now. And that is that Maslow basically said that as a species or as a people, we build our structures and our lifestyles based on his hierarchy. And at the base, the biggest and broadest one is our physiological requirements. So we basically need food, water, rest. On top of it, once we've got that, we're in the cave, we've got food, water, rest, we know how to hunt, hunter-gatherer level still, then we need security. So once we start doing villages, as a community, we get together, we now have safety. So once you've got the comfort of food, water, rest, and you know that you're secure, then all of a sudden, poof, something starts happening. You start building intimate relationships, friends, because you can chill. Once you do friends, you go into accomplishment, which is an internal esteem. Your esteem starts building, and that obviously leads to self-actualization. Now, I'm not going to joke. I think I'm very much in a sweet spot in my head, in my skills. I'm very confident in what I do. I'm a front-end software developer. I love sales, and I love psychology. I always say I've got a very weird skill set between techie, sales, and psychology, but it really empowers me. So let's say in January when we had our plans, you know, the 2020 chocolate cookie, I mean, I was really on the self-actualization thing. And then, poof, oatmeal. Question is, how far did we fall? Where are you now? Because it plays a very critical role in developing yourself, starting up new, deciding where, what business to do, what services to do. So let's quickly look. Thank you, Alta. My next poll is I would really love you guys to tell me where do you think we are in Maslow. Now, the questions are from the bottom, like number one is physiological, then safety, then love, belonging, then esteem, and then where do you guys, with the current lockdowns, with COVID, with basically the supply chains coming to an end, where do you think we are at the moment? Are you on the self-actualization? So you're coping, you're gunning it? Or do you think the world is basically sort of come to a... it's very interesting from your polls, because I think I agree with the majority that we have fallen back into the safety level, which is great, because if you look at the width of that triangle, the safety level is the broadest, apart from the food side. So I must say, just on the food and water side, in South Africa, there's already something like, I read yesterday, 43% of people that don't have food. So I think a big portion of our country citizens are already on level 1. But as a business, I mean, for everyone to start standing up, it literally, the responsibility resides on us, business people, business owners. But I agree with the majority. I think that for me personally, I think we're on the safety level. I won't say it's going to turn into rioting, but I definitely think that as a community, we're quite close to the bottom. Okay, so I'm quickly just gonna start finishing up. What do we do now? How do you go back to basics? You're an entrepreneur, okay? You've now listened to me. You realize, okay, we're in the crap. We're in Maslow, safety level. I'm surviving. If you look at all the questions I've asked, okay, quite dismal. So for me, it's quite easy, and it's obvious, and that is that one of my favorite movies is the movie Robots. I don't know if you guys remember the movie. You can give me a thumbs up if you remember the movie Robots with the little red tin can robot. The whole movie is based around one thing, where the robot is taught by his dad by saying, see a need, fill a need. So it's the basics for me is to literally go back to that. And that is go and look for a need. Go and sit and self-analyze yourself. Look at your business. Don't gravitate to what you've done. Gravitate towards what you can do. If you gravitate towards what you've done, you're literally holding on to the past. It does not mean after we go through this that you might not, if you had a freight company, I'm not saying become a programmer, you might want to, but you can still go on with freight afterwards. But going back to basics is to literally ask yourself, in the new normal, will someone still want that? You sold brooms before that, will someone still need a broom? So the basics for me is see a need, fill a need. So identify a problem, various problems. Obviously, COVID, if you are working on a cure for COVID, you've got my support, but also work on the solution. But the problem that I find people do is everyone, I mean, in this case, if I don't have it as a poll, so don't worry. But in this case, many people say, okay, everyone's sitting at home, how can I help? And there's thousands of people reaching out on LinkedIn and helping and doing posts. I mean, ourselves, we developed this whole WeSpeak platform so that people have a platform to talk on. But I think all of a sudden that's also inundated with everyone's trying to sort of look at, okay, everyone's online, everyone needs to do meetings, everyone is into digital marketing. The problem is everyone is now marketing their products and everyone is, so within a month, even that is, but I think if you go back to the core is think of what the normal will be in a month or two, and then look at what the requirement then will be. The challenge is not what the problem and the solution is. The challenge is, what is your role in it? We are all born with different skills. We are all born with different personalities. I mean, I love selling. You can see I'm comfortable talking, although I'm an introvert. I like sitting in front of my computer developing systems. So you make a list of the problems you see, make a list of the possible solutions, but then you've got a third list, and that third list is what can you do about it? If you don't know anything about software development, it might not be a good idea to go from selling brooms to a software developer. So you've got your features, which are sort of your problem and your solution. The benefits are the ones that you can solve. But I always advise people, don't try and solve stuff based on what you've done. I mean, I studied engineering, and then I realized I need to do something else, and then you leave engineering. So we always say that if you stand up with a fantastic opportunity is that if you have the ability to recreate yourself, please, you can do anything. You can actually become a doctor, because when you were young, you wanted to be a doctor. So I always encourage people to think out of the box. Think the back to basics is, ditch the other stuff. What do you want to do? What do you like to do? Forget about business success, anything, and then put together your problem, your solution, and match your skills. The matching is actually where your next success in the new normal will be. And then an aspect that people don't forget, and I always say, because of my inclination towards psychology, and obviously, as I said, I mean, my panic attack that I get, the triggers that I get, and that is coping mechanisms. Because it's one thing to calm yourself down. Red wine will do that. Take a red wine, a pill, and you're chilled. The problem is that if you start going down the panic, stress, anxiety, depression route, that unfortunately kills planning. It kills solutions planning. It kills motivation. And actually, the one thing that it creates most, that I found from a business point of view, if you close the business, is bitterness. That you think, why did it happen? Why did it happen to me? So I think I almost want to say 80% of you as an entrepreneur to survive the new normal, and I think all entrepreneurs will have to rethink what they do, will be to develop coping mechanisms, calm yourself down. What I do is, as someone that suffers from anxiety, is over 30 years, I've identified specific things that trigger panic attacks, and I stay away from them. So now, if something doesn't work, I chill. I stay away from the panic attacks. Thanks, Willem. And those identifying the triggers really help me. So I want to go on to my next poll, and that is again to ask you, do you know what your current core skills are? I'm not talking about, the poll will come up just now. I'm not talking about what you did. And I'm talking about truly what your core skills are. I look at myself, Eugene, what do I like, what do I love, and what am I really good at? I'd really like to see, yeah, I'm very glad. I clearly have a whole bunch of very confident entrepreneurs. I mean, really, yes, that's awesome. The majority say, yes, of course, which is really inspiring. And I think it also, what's interesting is it talks a lot about why you guys are actually on this webinar and why you bought tickets for this conference. And if you join any of our freebie webinars during it, the sessions, I think it talks a lot to why you guys are who you are. Okay, so without further ado, I do actually have the next poll, and I want to ask you guys, do you think currently you can offer something other than what you did before? Very specifically, there's a new normal. That's fine, we've established that. You're coping with your stress, you're starting to plan. Hopefully all your entrepreneurs are starting to plan. Can you reinvent yourself? In other words, you were a truck driver, can you now be a software developer? You sold brooms, I don't know, now you become a cleaner. Do you think you can do that at the moment? It's very interesting, the responses I'm getting. I think the obvious one, which I think people have responded to, is yes, I will have to, which is also obvious. Let me just go further there. And then I'm very glad to say there's a very strong yes, I can. So I actually want to invite all you guys that did the poll to get in contact with me, because I really like to pick your brain. One of our businesses is to help take businesses and help put their products into the market. And one of the most passionate aspects we look at is if people are core to supplying a product that they feel deeply about. And in this case, if I just look at the polls here, the majority is yes, I will have to. I would love to know what you guys are doing after this. And how you guys have created and adapted for the new norm. So starting to finish off my webinar and my masterclass this morning is how to do it, because I think we're all living in a current level of stress. What's going to happen with cash flow? What's going to happen with the business? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose my business itself? Do I have to retrench people? I think we're all unsure. And I always tell people, I mean, there's TED Talk guys talking about it, and that is the old saying is run towards your fear. One of the best ways that I found to cope with the fear of what's going to happen is to basically take it on, bring it on, let's see what you can do. And that is really an incredibly strong coping mechanism. What I also found is, especially with the panic attack side of what I have to cope with as an entrepreneur, is that as soon as the lockdown happened, I went into that mode again. I went into the mode of problem solving, get the problem, get the solution, match my skills up to it, and then build something on it. In other words, my running towards the fear actually ended up in the We Speak platform. I started developing it beginning of March, and now we've got a platform that people can talk on. So run towards your fear, identify your triggers. The triggers, the triggers will get you to think clearer. The triggers will lead to opportunities. The opportunities will effectively lead to seeing the problem. And I always go by the saying, I heard it from someone else recently as well, is give before you take. In other words, try and offer the service before you take something. So we are living in an era where money is very short. You guys paid for this masterclass set. Thank you very much. We are doing upcoming conferences for free as well. So it depends on who the speakers are. But, you know, I think we're in a stage where you don't have to do everything for free, but there's a very big opportunity to offer services for free, not just to help people, but to build whatever you're planning to do. And then the one thing I tell people, if you have to redo yourself, is to try and always think that you have to work without the potential for compensation. I know it sounds very weird because none of us like to work for free. But I found the clearest way for me to work is to not expect compensation. And what that does is it basically makes that I work 200% more enjoyable towards a purpose. And I find that even if that opportunity or the venture doesn't work out, I don't kick myself. I'm quite fine with it. If you work for compensation, the impact of the venture not working is higher. The expectations you put on yourself is higher. I can promise you, you're that much closer to anxiety and depression and everything. So I'm gonna do my last poll. You'll see, I just want to say on my slide, for me, it's game, set, match. It's not the tennis one. It is literally game. What is the game? Set and bring it on as a match. I'm happy to take it on. And I'm very glad to see that you guys are there as well. So my final one before I end, we're on the 35-minute mark. I just want to know, do you think the current lockdowns are more damaging than the virus? And that's a recent question. I literally put it in last night because there's a lot of conflicting stuff coming out. Obviously, the lockdowns intention is to flatten the curve so that it doesn't strain or overly strain the medical infrastructure. But now, obviously, we're starting to see the impact of it on business, survival, people, food, supply chain, cash flow, I mean, you name it. And I've seen a lot of reports come out now that the damage, maybe we should do the virus. Maybe we should let it go and just start building again, which is quite controversial. I'm not going to tell you guys where I am. I'm a very statistics type of person, very, you know, as an engineer, I'm very analytical about it, but I'd love to have your opinions about it. So guys, that sort of brings me to the end of my portion of the chat. I hope I was able to give you guys some answers. The theme of my talk this morning is the new entrepreneur for the new normal. Hopefully I've conveyed a little bit of how I'm thinking as a veteran, shall I say veteran, career entrepreneur of 30 years. I've been through it before. I've survived it. I've survived the cups. I've survived the oatmeal crashes. I'm really going to coin that, I must say. And the next 12 sessions we've got in our conference is all about that. So we've got different speakers that will contribute different things towards their thinking. Very powerful stuff. This morning stuff is very powerful. After this webinar, and if you look at it as a recording, it won't be, but after this webinar, you'll be pointed towards the next registration. Please register, join. The next speaker is Thandi Sabanda, and he's got he's an amazing thought leader. And I'd encourage you to go over onto the next session, get the coffee. So it is now 20 to 10 in the morning. The next session starts at 10 o'clock. And I want to thank you guys for taking the time off on this cold morning, definitely in Pretoria, to come and join me and listen to me. You guys are welcome to get in touch with me on WeSpeak. And I really appreciate the answers that you gave, because I love feeding off, and I feed off the answers people give. So thanks a lot. I'm going to leave the chat open for just about 10 seconds. If anyone wants to ask me questions. Carl, definitely our core skills can be used in other arenas to reinvent ourselves. That's fantastic. Donnie, thank you for the compliment. Alta, always great. Carl, thanks a lot. Okay, so I think, can you believe it? I missed my last slide. I want to show you guys, this is just, if you can see, that's me working. My new normal, can you believe it, is to actually bring my wine, which is now a very scarce commodity, in front of my computer. So I thought I definitely want to share this with you guys, because my new normal, believe it or not, is again my new normal. So, okay, that brings me to the end. Thank you very much. Register for the next sessions. We have, for those guys that's joining on our teaser webinars, please register. If you go to the shop, purchase a ticket. We've got 12 fantastic webinars going. This is a whole conference happening today and tomorrow. I know you guys don't have anything to do unless you've taken the red wine a little bit too early, but join us, and I'll see you in the upcoming ones, because I'm the MC for some of the other speakers. So thanks a lot for coming through. And yeah, I hope to see you guys a little bit later. I'll see you in 20 minutes on Tandu's talk. Thanks, guys. Go well.